Good afternoon. Hello, people are starting to filter in. Great to have you all here today. All right, as folks are filtering in, we're gonna go ahead and launch a quick poll so you can let us know sort of what's brought you here today. So Kevin, if you wanna launch that poll as folks are filtering into the room, you can just click on your response to that. That would be excellent. We're going to give it a couple minutes to get everyone on board here, and then we'll get going. All right, good afternoon. My name is Chelsea Rosty, and I'm the Vice President of Communications at Energy Outreach Colorado. We are so grateful that you're joining us here today for this Lunch and Learn featuring experts in the solar industry. So we're going to talk a lot about a lot of different things today, spanning from the basics of different types of solar. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening legislatively in this space, and then talk about a couple of different case studies, how you can get involved as an individual consumer, and we will have some time for questions at the end. If you do have questions at any time throughout the presentation, you can type them into the Q&A box. You'll see that at the very bottom of the screen, so please type your questions into the box there, and I will take some time during the presentation to answer some of those, and then of course we will hold time at the end. I'm going to quickly pause here though and just look at our poll results. So we'll be closing the poll in about 10 seconds, but who do we have in the room today? So what best describes your interest in today's presentation? We've got about 74% of folks saying they're interested in residential solar, so we have perfect person to chat with us about that today. Commercial solar, about 21% of our respondents, 37% wanting to learn about community solar. I'm really excited about that topic personally. And then learning about solar legislature. And there is a lot to talk about in that space as well today. So thank you so much for sharing just sort of what's brought you here today. And we're going to kick off into the presentation now. So I've got three excellent panelists here this afternoon. We've got Anna Perry with Namaste Solar. We've got Sam Frick with Pivot Energy, and our own Berlyn Hubler with Energy Outreach Colorado. And so I'm going to pass it to each of these ladies to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their career, and then they're each going to share maybe one little fun fact about themselves that we might not be able to see on their resume. So Anna, I'm going to start with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So Anna Perry here. I'm our Director of Residential Sales at Namaste Solar. I've been with Namaste Solar for about 8.5 years and working in the solar industry for about 10 years. So certainly a veteran in this space, and something not on my resume, I love to go river rafting. So you can find me on a river every other weekend.
Love it. Thanks for sharing. Sam, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Frick. I'm the Director of Community Relations and Impact at Pivot Energy. Thank you so much for inviting us. I'm really excited to talk today more about this topic. And at my day job, I manage our community engagement in Colorado and other states where Pivot operates. And I focus on building community benefiting projects. And a fun fact about me, I'm also an outdoors lover. I am obsessed with hiking. On Monday, I backpacked around Mount Rainier in Washington State, and I'm just always looking for opportunities to hike more in Colorado as well.
Same. Thanks so much. And Berlyn.
Hi, happy to be here today. I'm Berlyn Hubler. I manage the community solar program at Energy Outreach Colorado. I have been at EOC almost 4 years, and like the others, about 10 years in the industry. Our program does low-income acquisition and ongoing management. We offer free community solar subscriptions to our participants. And something that's not on my resume, I also love spending time outdoors, but I will say I have won prizes in ice fishing tournaments.
The more you know. I'll have to pick your brain about that. I used to do a lot of that myself. All right, well, we're going to dive into the topics here this afternoon. And so what I'm going to ask each of the panelists to do now is just to talk a little bit about their area of expertise as it relates to the solar industry. So they're going to go into a little bit of a very basic, detailed explanation of what's residential solar, what's community solar, and what is commercial solar. And what should folks know about each option? We're going to stay with the same order because I think it kind of flows really well there with people being the most familiar with residential solar, and then go from there. So Anna, if you can just give us a little bit about residential solar.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think it's important to know at Namaste Solar, we have a residential team. We also have a commercial team. We've got an operations and maintenance team. We're a very diversified company. I'm going to today focus on residential solar as my topic, but I think it's helpful for folks to have that broad understanding of Namaste Solar as a company. And at its most basic form, Chelsea, putting solar panels or a battery system on your home, it's just a smart move. It makes financial sense. It's a safe investment, no matter who you are. There's real value in going solar. And for starters, I mean, it saves you money. It protects you from those unpredictable electricity rate increases. It gives you independence from your utility company, and it can boost your home value. Those are kind of the financial aspects of it, but it's also, right, using clean renewable energy is better for the planet. So, and then if you're adding a battery, on top of that, there's local and utility incentives that can help with that cost. So we're really supported here in Colorado for both solar and battery systems. Going solar means you're using clean energy and you get steady financial savings you can count on. I like to think of going solar like buying in bulk, right? We all know that buying things in bulk means that you're paying a lower amount per item. And with solar, you're buying all of your electricity for the next 30 or more years now, guaranteeing that you're saving money over time. So hopefully just a quick synopsis, and I know we'll do a deeper dive, but I'll pause there.
And thank you, Anna. Did you say, and I might have missed it, what percentage of savings, or is that something that's kind of hard to predict that folks could expect?
It's hard to predict because it's so site specific, but
Gotcha.
It is significant. We're saving tens of thousands of dollars over the lifetime of a solar system for each individual home.
Great, thank you so much. Now I'm going to pass it to Sam, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what is commercial solar and what happens in that space.
So first, a little bit about Pivot Energy. Pivot is a certified B Corp that develops, builds, owns, and operates community scale and commercial solar and storage projects over the lifetime of the project across the US. We are headquartered in Denver, Colorado. And one unique thing about Pivot is it invests in every community where it operates. Our community investment program has donated over 1.2 million and has pledged millions to more community-based organizations across the country. And our projects are small-scale commercial solar projects, and they fit into two main categories. The first is on-site solar. So they are individual on-site solar and storage projects that typically range from 1 to 10 megawatts and include rooftop projects, carports, and ground-mounted systems. A 100,000 square foot rooftop can typically support 1 megawatt of solar. And these are considered behind the meter, which means they're directly serving the energy needs of a commercial building or property, reducing or offsetting their need for power from the utility grid. And the second type is what we call off-site projects. They're larger and ground-mounted projects that can go up to 25 megawatts and are typically developed on land. And so 5 acres of land typically can support 1 megawatt of solar. Our average project size is about 5 megawatts, which takes about 25 acres of land. And these systems we call front of the meter. The electricity goes to the utility to support the grid, enhance reliability, and provide energy to multiple users that are off-site from where the solar project is located.
Amazing. And that's going to lead really well into what Berlyn has to say, I believe. But I did have one question about that. So are you seeing a lot of this happening? Sort of what's your mix, or do you know, sorry to put you on the spot here, for new builds? Is it more popular for commercial solar to be integrated into new builds, or a lot of your projects going retrofit onto buildings that are already existing? Sorry to put you on the spot. I just was curious myself.
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer, but I would say it's always great to incorporate that from the beginning with a new build, if that's part of the plan to build building, to think of the future, think of the solar opportunities, think of EV charging and other opportunities from the beginning.
Great, thank you so much. So Berlyn now is going to bring up the caboose on community solar and how this sort of integrates all together.
Yeah, so community solar in the simplest way I can describe it is a way for people who can't install solar where they live to access the benefits of solar. So bill savings and supporting clean energy. At EOC, our program is free and a higher portion of the bill savings is passed to the household. I will say we're currently serving about 6,000 low-income households in Colorado with our community solar program, and they have saved a collective $4 million on their electricity bills and didn't need to install anything where they live. Yeah, and the great thing about community solar is that anyone that has a community solar program in their utility service area can pay to participate. I myself have a few subscriptions and have saved about $100 a year by basically doing nothing, which is really great.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Berlyn. Just such a cool program. And it's also, I think we can talk about this a little bit more, but community solar also provides a way sometimes when we're at EOC doing electrification of residences to ensure that if there's any increase in electricity usage, that we can offset some of the costs from that. So it allows for all of Coloradans to be able to participate in the clean energy transition, which is something that we're super proud of here at EOC. So thank you so much. So I'm going to go back to you, Anna, and just want to talk a little bit more about solar in a deep dive type of way. So let's say that someone's new to residential solar, or they're thinking about getting it installed in their residence. What should they know about the process? And then also we know that there are some bad actors out there. So what red flags should they maybe watch for regarding predatory practices?
Absolutely. First, I'll speak to some Solar 101, right? Things everyone should know who are looking into solar. And it's pretty simple. We put solar panels on your roof. Those solar panels generate electricity for your home. And in many cases, the system can cover all or even more than all of your energy needs. And the house uses the energy from the solar panels in real time. So if you flip a switch on during the day, you're pulling that energy straight from the sun, which is so cool to think about. And when when your system makes more energy than the home is using, that excess energy goes back to the utility. A process called net metering kicks in, where you get monetary credits for that excess power. And then later on, when the sun's not shining and you're pulling electricity from the utility, you're still not paying for that because those credits are helping cover that cost. So very basic structure of how solar and net metering work together. And then for anyone looking to take the next steps in solar, at Namaste Solar, we've got a team of solar advisors that are not working on commission, right? So you're not going to get a hard sales pitch. Instead, we offer a free personalized quote. It includes a design, all the details of the equipment for your home. And what really sets us apart, we're an employee-owned cooperative and a certified B Corporation. And it just means we really deeply care about the way we're doing things, not just trying to make a quick buck. And Chelsea, to your point, unfortunately, residential solar sometimes does get a bad rap. It's not because the technology doesn't work, right? We know it does. It's just because some companies out there are using kind of aggressive or shady sales tactics. So the key is choosing the right partner. Do your homework, make sure you're working with people you trust, right? And a couple things to look out for: bait and switch pricing, right? A company might tell you a certain cost on the front end. You sign up, you're all excited, and then they hit you with a change order on the back end. So that's one of those processes. Fake urgency is another big one, right? Sales folks might say, oh, this deal is only good for today. You have to sign up. And you don't. That deal's going to be there tomorrow, right? Take your time, make an informed decision. We also see exaggerated savings where some sales companies will say, oh, you're going to save a ridiculous amount of money over the life of the system. Wow, you save a lot. There's a lot of monetary savings, right? Just be realistic about that, what that looks like. And also inaccurate system sizes. Some solar companies, they're going to try to sell you a system that's so big just to make more money that you don't really need. So at Namaste Solar, we don't do that, right? You want to make sure you're working with a local company that's been around for a while with great reviews. That track record really matters. Make sure a company does their own installations. A lot of solar companies subcontract out their work, which means they don't have control over the quality, right? And then it's also smart to choose a company that's diversified. I spoke a little bit to Namaste Solar's diversification, but if a company only does residential solar and that part of the industry slows down, they could be in trouble, right? But if they've got a mix, residential, commercial, design, maintenance, they're just in a much better spot to stick around for the long haul. And that's exactly how we do it at Namaste Solar. So you know what, the number one thing I can say is just go with a company who's got non-commissioned sales, who's been around for a long time with great reviews. And that way you can feel good about the decision you're making and confident.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I love that you're an employee-owned company. I just think it's such a cool thing, and it makes it just that feel-good thing. So thanks for sharing. I feel a lot more informed already, so thank you for that. Sam, we're going to go over to you, and this is one of those sort of case study type things that I talked about in the beginning of this webinar. And so Sam's going to talk to us a little bit about a word that's hard for me to say, but it's agrovoltaics, I believe. And so can you walk us through what a project like that looks like? Some folks refer to this as the land doing double duty. And so just help us understand that, and maybe just talk a little bit about an example you might have.
Yeah, so Pivot is committed to dual use agricultural and holistic land stewardship practices on all of its eligible ground mounted sites. This is known as agrivoltaics, and it's also sometimes called dual harvest. And what that means is our solar facilities work together with agriculture, such as beekeeping and crop production. And a little bit more about our holistic land stewardship practices. During the construction phase, Pivot uses low-till techniques to maintain the quality of the topsoil. And then we plant native grasses that are drought tolerant and are pollinator and grazer friendly. And we plant this mixture of grasses that include taller plant species that benefit pollinators and create diversity across the site, providing shelter to small and medium animals. And we use sheep grazing on our site for the duration of the project life cycle instead of using mechanical mowing. And so all of these best practices on our solar projects are helping to restore soil quality, conserve water, increase ecosystem functioning, and create pollinator habitats under the solar panels. So some examples, I've got a couple examples in Colorado that I would love to share. The first is in LaSalle, Colorado, and Weld County. We're developing a co-located project. One is 500 kilowatts, the other is 5 megawatts. And this is our first true dual harvest project in which we are working with a local tenant farmer to grow root vegetables and hay under the solar panels. And we're really excited to learn more about this project and how we can replicate it in other places in Colorado. And the second example I'd like to share is in Mesa County. This is a parcel that's owned by Pivot, and we're adding subsurface drip irrigation to help retain the water rights as well as conserve water. And we have partnered with researchers from Colorado State University, and they're going to be planting vegetables and grapes in between the rows. And there's going to be sort of a control area outside of that, where they're not going to plant anything. So they can compare and do research. They can be doing experiments to assess the soil health and plant productivity between the solar farmed areas compared to the control area. And we are Pivot is providing the site access and the irrigation infrastructure to enable the researchers' teamwork. And we're going to be, all the food that's grown is going to be donated to Mesa County food banks, providing up to 5,000 pounds of fresh food per year for local families. And the grapes that are going to be produced on site will be used to produce small batch solar grown wine. We have another project in Colorado that is producing honey. We have beekeeping on site. We've partnered with a local apiary, and I have to say the hot honey is chef's kiss.
So you're going to be sharing links on how we can get honey, and then I'm going to be like eyes on the wine production because I'm from Mesa County, and so I'm going to have to keep my eyes on this because that is so cool. Congratulations on those projects. Just really cool stuff that you're doing there, and thanks for sharing just some of the different things that can really, the more you do, the more you diversify, kind of what Anna was talking about with the way that their business is diversified, but the more you can diversify a garden and its uses, I think, again, creates more stability for all parties involved. So congrats on that. That's really great. So Berlyn, over to you. And I might have stole your thunder earlier, I just realized. So sorry if you were going to talk about what I said earlier, but let's talk about community solar and equity. So how do community solar gardens work on a deeper level than what you shared before? And then how are they improving access and equity in the clean energy space for Coloradans?
Yeah, so, and I'm honestly probably going to sound like a broken record because community solar is like complicated and simple at the same time. But the great thing is that you can live in any type of housing and participate as long as you're paying your electricity bill. You might be a renter or live in a mobile home, or just have a roof that's not that suitable for solar. My roof is crazy looking and a very small portion of it is facing the best direction. So community solar is like a really great option for me where I wouldn't be able to put a very large array or even one that would offset my bill on my rooftop. It's also an option if you can't afford a system, or maybe you don't make enough money to qualify for those tax breaks, or you don't have a tax appetite. You don't want to take on the risk of financing a system. We have a lot of elderly participants who they're like, I don't know if I'm going to be here in 20 years or however long I'm going to have to pay the system off. So you can just still save money on your bill without having to, take on the risk. And one of the other benefits is that, someone who installs rooftop solar, the studies out there say that the average savings is around 20% in bill savings. There are community solar programs that offer that high of savings. Usually they're around 5 to 10%. We've also seen some developers offer no savings at all. They'll, give you a gift card or something like that. It's just higher or lower depending on the program or the owner or what they were able to get in terms of like rec incentives or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of options out there for people who want to participate. So the basics of it is that you would sign up and you get assigned a section of a large project, similar to what Sam was mentioning, like a megawatt project. You might get like a 6-panel area. We don't usually talk in panels, but like for reference, if you're thinking about solar panels, you might get like 6 solar panels as your subscription size. The utility will monitor how much solar is produced each month, and then based on your share of the garden, you'll get a credit on your bill. If you're in an EOC program, you won't pay anything. That credit is yours to keep. If you're in one of those programs where you have like a discount, like a 10% or 20% discount, the example I like to use is like you have $100 credit on your bill. What you do is you pay $90 to the owner. So you may have like a lower rate on your electricity bill, and then you pay a portion of that back to the owner of the solar garden. So you get a net 10% savings or something like that. For our program specifically, we try to target a minimum of 50% bill savings, and our subscribers save about $50 a month, which is really great for not having to pay for anything or install something or, have a loan or whatever. It's just bill savings on your bill, which is really great. Yeah, I mean, in general, it's just a great way to support clean energy and save money on your bill, especially if you're facing any of the barriers to install rooftop solar where you live. And in terms of equity, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe, but I think that like some of our gardens are serving 1,000 households, right? That's limited income households. And all of those households are getting the benefit of solar. And, it's just not the same if we were to install on like all 1,000 of those households. It's just not that feasible. And so this is a way to get solar into like everyone's home. Yeah.
Thank you. I love how too, like everything that each of you have talked about here sort of integrates with one another and how we need all of the different options to make this whole system work. And before I worked at EOC, community solar was definitely the piece that I wasn't aware of and have instantly fallen in love with. But could you tell us just really quickly, Berlyn, maybe about one of the projects? I don't know if you want to talk about Chatfield, because I was just thinking like if folks on this call wanted to go see a solar garden in action, where might they go? But just could you talk us through maybe Chatfield and just like how we got the signups, who's benefiting from that, and what's going on with that project?
Yeah, so we do have a solar project that we have been co-managing. It's Chatfield Farms, which is Denver Botanical Gardens farm. It's out near Chatfield State Park. The garden there is actually growing food and vegetables. The project was funded by the city and county of Denver, and they worked with a developer, and the developer is basically hired us to subscribe and manage, as well as the city. They really wanted EOC to be a partner for all of their projects. I really can't remember off the top of my head how many households we have subscribed there, but it is, I want to say like 80% of the garden is limited income households. And we've been signing up folks from Denver Public Schools. So it's just like a myriad of organizations coming together. So like the city owns the project, it's at the farm, there's farmers at the farm growing the vegetables, and then they're working with EOC to have Denver Public School families benefit from the solar credits there. So hopefully that's a good summary.
It's amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, we're going to shift gears here a little bit, and I think we're just going to kind of stay in the same order because it makes sense. We're going to talk about political and regulatory environment. There's a lot going on right now in the news. You've probably heard, if you're paying attention to this space, as far as what's happened with the most recent bill that President Trump signed. And so we're going to talk about what the political landscape looks like for solar and how it's affecting each of these respective sectors of the solar landscape. My colleague is also going to be sharing an article that came out today in the Denver Business Journal. He's going to throw that into the chat, and it's basically going to talk about what we are discussing today, but it's just really real-time information about that. So over to you, Anna. Can you tell us a little bit about just like what's happening politically? How does it affect your your residential side of this sectors here? And then also, we talked about in our prep call, sort of what's happening to workforce, and that's something I think a lot of folks don't think about when you start to think about cuts and that different type of thing that really affects our economy. And so if you can speak to that as much as possible, that would be great.
Absolutely. And yes, so we all know the bill passed, right? And that the residential solar tax credit is ending at the end of this year. So we will absolutely see, probably see a bit of a slowdown in the industry for a little while. But the one thing that we really don't want homeowners to think is that it's now or never for solar. That is just not true. I want that to be loud and clear, right? I mean, what's actually happening is that this bill is going to push equipment manufacturers to lower their costs across the entire residential manufacturing sector. and we'll be able to pass those savings directly on to our customers. At the same time, utility companies all over Colorado and nationwide have said that the bill is going to lead to higher electricity rates for a myriad of reasons, which I won't dive into, but that's widely accepted. It's the utilities and the solar companies on the same side, right, of this concept. And as those rates keep going up each year, going solar is just makes more and more financial sense. So even after the federal tax credit ends, the long-term value of installing solar is still very strong. I just want that to be very clear. 2026 is not too late, right? Still a great time to go solar. It's still a smart investment. At Namaste Solar, speaking to our workforce a little bit, I mean, as an employee-owned cooperative, we don't just hire a bunch of employees or installers on for the summertime, do a bunch of installations, and then let folks go, right? We are a company that provides consistent employment across all of our sectors. And that's what we plan to continue to do, right? We really believe that the residential solar market, while it might take a slowdown for a little while, is going to be here. Homeowners want to go solar. They understand the financial savings and the environmental benefits. And so we believe that our workforce will be maintained over the long run. At Namaste Solar as a company, we've also been in business over 20 years. That's a dinosaur in the solar industry. As everyone in the solar industry knows, we know the term solar coaster, right? There's ups and downs in this solar industry. We've seen them all over the last 20 years. So I'm not just trying to bring rose-colored glasses to the situation. I'm super happy to dive into more details about the bill if it's helpful. And I want our homeowners to believe that residential solar is a great value proposition going forward, and we're here to show you why. And I'll pause there.
Thanks, Anna. In the article that we shared from the Denver Business Journal, which actually features your company, quotes from your CEO, talks about that and talks about the increases that are probably coming for electricity specifically. And so I love how, you turned it into a positive and just making solar even more valuable. And I think that's a valid point, is the way, supply and demand works. So, and price points. So thank you so much for that perspective. So Sam, on the commercial side, how are you all feeling? How does this bill affect your business? What's happening there in commercial?
Yeah, our commitment to the successful delivery of solar to continue to provide grid benefits and grid reliability remains our top priority. And we've been tracking this progress very closely. So the full investment tax credit, or ITC, including all the bonus adders, remains available for solar and wind projects that are placed in service on or before December 31st, 2027. The projects that begin construction prior to July 4th, 2026, which is 12 months from the bill's enactment, will not be subject to the 2027 place in service deadline. And this means that if construction starts before this date and remains continuous progress, the project can still receive the full investment tax credit, even if placed in service later, such as in 2028. And for energy storage and other eligible technologies like fuel cells and biogas, the ITC remains available for an even longer period through 2033 before any phase out. And Pivot has strategically prepared for this legislative outcome by developing action teams to navigate the new landscape and procure key equipment prior to the bill's enactment. And this has provided us with maximum optionality and helps ensure the eligibility of our projects with the existing incentives. Our strategic planning has enabled us to adapt swiftly to this legislative landscape. And regardless of policy shifts, as Anna was saying, the fundamental demand for solar energy remains strong and will continue to grow. And we are committed to providing reliable, cost-effective solar and energy storage solutions for the long term of these investments, and it still remains compelling.
Plus, you're going to have solar wine and honey, so
yeah,
you got the corner of the market on that. Jokes, of course. Thank you for sharing about that. There's a question that I'm holding for the end, but just if you want to kind of be thinking about it as we go on, it's asking about private investors taking, if there's going to be a space for that or what that's looking like coming on the scene as some of these tax credits start to go away. So we'll talk about that a little later, just kind of want to plant the seed ahead of time. So over to you, Berlyn. I think, what our two colleagues here have talked about affect, what we're doing at EOC, but I'm just really interested in your perspective of how this affects income qualified Coloradans and what that looks like for them.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going to go with this. So, it's not just energy policy that's making our jobs tougher at EOC. Cuts across the board with public assistance make households more vulnerable to price increases in energy. So, like Anna and Sam were saying, like energy costs will go up. And so, we're going to see our households struggling more. When money's tight, people have to make really tough decisions between food or medicine or paying for their energy bills. And those have real life consequences on people's health and welfare. And then it also just means a demand for our services. It's just a higher demand for people looking for energy resources, cost savings on their bill, things like that. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that locally, community solar policies are changing too. In the state, we won't have 100% free community solar projects in the future, but we're lucky that our state is still invested in solar. We have a carve out for low income households, and some of our partners, like Pivot, are still committed to offering the highest bill savings to our participants. Being able to offer higher bill savings for limited income households who are signing up for community solar helps with things like attrition. It helps people not come back for energy assistance. So it's just a really big priority for us is to work with partners who are pursuing those higher percent savings for our participants.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Berlyn. I think with Energy Outreach Colorado, just a little selfless plug here, but we have sort of this continuum of the way that we provide assistance for folks. And so it's that emergency assistance. If someone's facing disconnection, we have bill payment assistance that mitigates that disconnection. And then also we have a crisis intervention program that helps if folks have a heating system repair that's needed. But then that goes into how do we help people better afford their home energy? And so we have energy efficiency programs that can help, retrofit a home to make it more energy efficient, install things like heat pumps, and then we utilize community solar to pull those costs down so that hopefully a person is not then coming around the next winter and facing disconnection again, but their costs have decreased and then they can better afford their whole picture of what they need. And then our third piece of what we do at EOC is the advocacy side. So it's those, advocating for lower rates, talking about legislation just like the one that we're discussing here, and making sure we always have the best in mind for our participants, and that's how we make all of our decisions at EOC. So what you said is really, closely tied with that, and I just wanted to share what you meant by, someone's not coming back for bill payment assistance because now their bill is more affordable, which is what we're trying to do here. So thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to stay with you and we're going to talk a little bit about emerging market demands. And so there a lot of things, if you're also following the news, have been about data centers, artificial intelligence, and the infrastructure that's surrounding that and how much energy AI truly uses. So I just want to hear from you, Berlyn, a little bit about how you see that affecting the solar landscape, and then what kind of utility bill increases might consumers expect as a result of this demand, kind of like what we were talking about with the economics of it.
Yeah, like Anna was saying earlier about, staying optimistic and solar is not going away. I just feel that the landscape with artificial intelligence, AI, and data centers, there's just so much demand that we can't ignore energy sources. So the International Energy Agency, the IEA, released a report in April this year stating that worldwide energy demand from data centers would double by 2030, and AI is going to be the largest driver for this increase. and that demand will quadruple by 2030. The report also says that the two largest sectors that they're expecting to grow to meet this demand are natural gas and solar PV. Unfortunately, the federal in the US, they're working to disincentivize solar. And I think it's just not the time to be politically divisive over clean energy or where we're getting our energy from. Because if we're not trying to meet this demand, prices will go up. And like I mentioned before, when prices increase, it's the most vulnerable populations that are disproportionately impacted with those cost adjustments.
Thank you so much. You're such an advocate in this space, and I just really thank you for the work that you're doing there. Okay, so we're at 12:41. We're going to go into our call to action. So asking each of the panelists, what is your call to action for our audience today? Then I have a little bit of wrap up, and then we're going to open it up and answer some of the questions. So if you've got a question, go ahead and start typing it into the Q&A piece that's down at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to answer as many as you can. But in the meantime, going back to Anna, what is your key call to action for our audience today?
Absolutely. And I just want to start by saying how lucky and proud we feel to be partnering with Energy Outreach Colorado, because I think one of my calls to actions is to focus on the community as solar in this solar space. And through our partnership, Namaste Solar and Energy Outreach Colorado, we've started our Keep the Lights On campaign, where we've raised over $330,000 to help provide community solar subscriptions to Coloradoans in need. And as an employee-owned cooperative at Namaste Solar, giving back is just a big part of who we are. Every year, we donate a portion of our profits through our community giving program back to the community. It's just something we believe in. So grateful to Energy Outreach Colorado. Call to action to help, work with them and to elevate their message. And then my Namaste Solar call to action is just that let's reach out and see if solar makes sense for your home. Reach out to your local solar company, reach out to Namaste Solar. We'll help you figure out if it's a right fit. And also don't keep it to yourself, right? Chat with your neighbors. Help spread the word that 2026 is a great time to install a solar system. It's a real way to make a difference, not just for the environment, but for your wallet and for your community. And we're here to help. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like we get a double portion of the call to action from that. So thank you. Sam, over to you. What's your call to action?
Yeah, so if any of this sparked your curiosity, you want to learn more about subscribing to a Pivot Energy Solar Garden, please contact our partners, Energy Outreach Colorado, and they can provide you with more information.
Great. Triple portion. Berlyn, what's your call to action for the audience?
I was going to say go visit Sam at Pivot Energy, but no. I would say if you're a limited income household, sign up for EOC's community solar program. The wait can be really long, so it's best to get in there early, even if you're not sure if you would qualify or not. You can always just give it a try, and we'll let you know for sure. If you're not a limited income household, again, explore the options that are out there. Pivot is a great option for a community solar subscription, but there are a wide variety of offers, and some of them may be more interesting. Yeah, and you can just save a little bit of money and support clean energy development. And I think the other thing would be to just do your research, stay aware of how this is all impacting us. And like Anna said, focus on the community. How can you help your neighbors if they're struggling with their bills or food or medicine and things like that? It's just super important for us to take care of each other.
Thank you. So sort of in conclusion, before we get to the Q&A, I want to thank both, Anna and Namaste and Sam and Pivot, not just for today and the time that you spent, but you're incredible partners of EOC. And you both mentioned already how we're working together, but our work would not be possible without the partnership of businesses like yours. So I just want to say thank you. And we are very, grateful for those partnerships. My colleague is going to drop something in the chat, but if you are already a residential solar user, here in Colorado through Excel, there's actually a program that you can donate the XX solar credits that you have over to EOC and go to support the things that Berlyn was just talking about. So again, you have to be already a residential solar user, and you have to be an Excel Energy customer, but you can donate those excess credits over to us and just kind of continue to fund the good work that we've been talking about. So just wanted to mention that. Okay. I'm going to go over to the questions, and actually I have one first, and Berlyn, it's for you. So you talked about you personally being a solar subscriber, but that you're purchasing your solar credits. And so where would one go to find how to purchase a credit for their home?
Yeah, so there's a couple places that you can look that maybe have multiple offers on display. Solar United Neighbors has a page where they'll put various offers that are available in your state. There's also Power Market you can look at. You can also go directly to the developer. So if you're like, you know what, I really like what Pivot's doing, I want to sign up with them, you can go to their website and enter your zip code and see what offers they may have available. Excel is also doing a better job of listing what gardens are out there and who has capacity that you could sign up for. You may get on a wait list. Wait lists are very common. A lot of times developers have to prove that their garden is full before they can fully get their financing realized. So, for us, when we're working with a developer, we do have to fill gardens sometimes like 6 months in advance of when we expect them to come online. And then it is a construction project. They are working with the utility, so there can be further delays. So we usually tell folks you can expect to be on a wait list for 12 months. It's a very long time to wait, but I promise the wait's worth it. And the longer you wait to sign up, the longer the wait will be. So yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. So Sam, I promised I would come back with this one. So we did have a question early on about, the federal bill and how the tax credits are affecting solar in Colorado, but the add-on to that was, will private investors start to enter this space if they haven't already, sort of seeing an opportunity there, or does anyone on the panel have any idea of how some of the finances may start to shift as we lose those tax credits?
Yeah, I can start. That's a really great question. I think it's yet to be seen, but because solar is unstoppable, it's going to continue to provide economic benefits. There will be more investment in the industry and in the technology in the various markets. So I'm optimistic about that. And just, one example that Berlyn already shared is the huge demand for data centers. And so we're expecting more partnerships with corporations that have a heavy load that really not only want to support renewable energy and community benefiting projects, but they also need reliable electricity. And solar and storage is a great option for that. And they are willing to pay premium for that level of reliability that they need. So overall, I'm expecting a continuation of private and corporate investment in solar.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything else to add, or are we? Okay, cool. So there is a question about a specific question that I see Berlyn you're addressing there. So we will skip that one. And then we did talk about a little bit about community solar. If we can't install solar panels, that there are subscriptions available through Pivot. And so the question is there a cost to participate? So yes and no. It's, again, depending on income qualification. If you're income qualified, then there's not a cost to participate in the program. But again, you can, if you're not income qualified, you can purchase those credits. And as Berlyn discussed, there's a cost to do that, but it's offset by your savings. And typically you're going to be saving more than what you spent on the subscription. So the next question is on the commercial side, the same rules apply for nonprofit, direct pay rebates versus federal ITC for business. Just making sure that's correct. He just wanted to check his understanding on that. Does anybody want to verify that for us? If we don't know, that's okay. Okay.
I don't, yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, what? Do we know of any local financial institutions providing long-term financing for the installation of solar and batteries, maybe in the range of $30,000 to $40,000? Do you have any ideas on that, Anna?
Absolutely. Yes, there are a lot of local Colorado companies who we work with personally to provide financing for our projects. So the Clean Energy Credit Union, I'll say that one more time, the Clean Energy Credit Union, give them a Google. They're a fantastic organization. They were actually started by the founder of Namaste Solar, so kind of a little sister company. And they work to provide financing for green energy home improvements. And they focus on a low-income space and are under provided for communities as well. So we partner with them to provide a zero down, low interest loan for both our solar and battery projects. And then there's also excellent programs, the Renew program. It's an acronym, RENU. It's organized through a Colorado organization. And you can partner with local credit unions and the Renew program to finance clean energy projects as well. So those would be my top 2 recommendations to reach out to. If you're interested in financing a residential solar project, come to Namaste Solar and we'll get you all the information about the Clean Energy Credit Union, what those payments look like, what the interest rate looks like, and we'll kind of handle that communication from there.
Amazing. Thank you. We also had someone note that Colorado CPACE, so C-PACE, will assist with commercial financing for solar, EV, and battery storage. So I don't know much about that, but I can pop it in the chat as well, so folks have that resource. Okay, well, that concludes the questions that we have here. So I know that no one's going to be sad about a little bit of time back in their day, other than the fact that I'm a little sad that this is already over because I learned a ton. And so again, to my colleagues here on the panel, I just want to say thank you. This was excellent. We had a great turnout today. We'll be putting out the recording of this and just a little bit of follow-up. So that'll come to all of the attendees who are here today. And I know some folks also attend for credits, for education credits to their work. So if you need that, just let us know as well. Reply to that email and we'll make sure to verify attendance. So thank you all again. Appreciate you all coming today, spending your lunch hour with us, and hope you have a